household welfare. The same 50% reduction in custom tariffs as a trade policy instrument is associated with 32.2% increase in Kenya's imports of clean technology commodities from the light manufacturing sector. The first one looked at heavy manufacturing sector. Then we see about 0.08% increase in exports, about 1.6% increase in GDP growth, and about 4.3% increase in domestic demand for these commodities. Therefore, what we notice is that household welfare improves, indicating that GVCs supported by trade policy are key for developing countries, especially Kenya. The last slide is on policy implications, some initial policy implications from that presentation that we have done. What we see is that liberalizing imports of clean technology commodities as carriers of green or clean technologies supports green development as measured by rise in exports and imports, rise in GDP, rise in household welfare and incomes. And also we see that raising trade in clean technologies also supports development as seen by greenhouse gas emissions going down. Greenhouse gas emissions going down because we want to develop and grow in an environment which is less emitting of greenhouse gases. Something else, we also see that also environmental degradation also reduces, which is very key, and it is what we would like to see from this policy intervention. So then we say that given imports of clean technologies are still low and could be they could be supported through these policy instruments. One, even when we are negotiating for trade agreements, we could have provisions which are eliminating or liberalizing custom tariffs on imports of clean technologies, commodities that embed those clean technologies. Then something else is the aspect of being able to harmonize non-tariff measures across the regions when we do the integration. Therefore, doing this policy instrument is key because it will enhance diffusion and adoption of clean technology adoption, and therefore being able to support green development and be able to support welfare improvements for the country. So much for that. That is the end of my presentation. I hope I've kept time.
Yeah, with the minute he has donated to us, 1 minute.
Thank you.
That's very good. And young scholars, I want you to be very, very keen, because as we exit the scene, we want you to be so grounded in this. So I wanted to implore upon you to maintain total silence and react to this after the third person. Otherwise, thank you very much, Mwatu. That is very informative. And let us reserve our comments, questions, and any observation as we bring in Dr. Ngeno to take us through his paper for 15 minutes. As he does that, Moses should also be ready to take before we eventually brainstorm. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair. And I think they are loading my presentation. But what I want to say is that I'm working on fisheries, and we would like to see how we can upgrade aquaculture across the board. So maybe as we wait, value chain upgrading in essence is a strategic improvement process that is aimed at increasing productivity, competitiveness, value addition, income, innovation, and even participation in that particular value chain. So upgrading does not entirely means that you work on the entire value chain, but it means that you want to add value or move even the product from a low value market to high value market. Upgrading also implies that you want to improve processes. You also want to improve the product in terms of maybe value addition, packaging, and all those other things. And also sometimes upgrading implies that you have to think of actually pursuing other better markets, including the export, among others. There is also another advantage of upgrading is where you think that technology can serve well across the value chain nodes. So the objective basically for upgrading is to transform and improve the value chain itself for better economic outputs. And in this case, we are trying to encourage aquaculture commercialization. So that is the outline of this presentation, but because of time, I think I will skip some of the slides. So entirely, globally, in terms of fisheries, is one of the key sectors, especially when it comes to food security, employment, among other benefits, or among other household indicators. In Kenya, we produce less than 160,000 metric tons, and with a value of about 35 billion. Currently, or for the last few years, or maybe one decade, aquaculture has emerged as one of the sector that can be used to stabilize the supply, because in Kenya we face a shortage sometimes of fish, and this is actually coming because of the fact that majority of the sources, including the capture, the lakes and others, have become more degraded. And as you can see, from the year 2019, aquaculture has risen to even to 47%, which is more than the captured fish. Those are the production trend between 2020 up to 2024, and you can see that grand total is actually less than 160, as I have alluded to. And this is a composition of several other sources within the country. That is the production by county. And in this slide, we see that several counties are actually favorable for production of this particular commodity. And aquaculture has grown. I think I've said that. It's actually contributing to 20% of all output from fish, and it is the fastest growing. Ever since the economic recovery strategies was brought in, aquaculture has emerged to be the best in terms of consistent supply, if well managed. At this point, again, I want to point out that we concentrated so much on production, because the literature has said that most of this fish that is being produced is entirely from the producers, from pond and even from cages across the lakes. And therefore, these particular farmers, again, are having some challenges, especially in accessing the market. And that is why we concentrated on this section, even though we have information for traders, aggregators, and others, but these farmers are not actually supplying those particular market channels. I didn't actually focus so much on fish value chain or value chain mapping, because in the year 2022, there was a study that was done in Kipra, and this is what they found out to be existing as far as value chain, fish value chain is concerned. And maybe before I move from there, you see different stages and what actually is coming out from every stage, including even skill development. There is a gap which is very huge. When it comes to activities, some of the activities are actually not modernized, and they have a very serious implication as far as policy is concerned. That is the element of environmental and ecological condition, especially across the entire fish systems. We have the inland, and the condition currently is declining fish, and we have aquaculture and the other cross-cutting issues. Among them is climate variability and climate change in general. I want to skip this because of time. So the theory that actually is backed on this study is a value chain theory, and at the same time, we included the socio-ecological system theory, which is most actually suited for this because it integrates sustainability and governance. And the reason why we embark on this is because when it comes to fish production, especially in bond, proper management needs to be done in a very careful manner, especially when you have actually inserted the fish fingerlings and when you are working on production of the same. So what we can say is that all these theories integrate. The integration of these theories actually is aimed at enhancing policy-oriented kind of analysis. So allow me to skip this section because I think I've mentioned somewhere and because of time. So we used a mixed method approach. We use both qualitative and quantitative information. And this information we actually got from ABDB, Aquaculture Business Development Project, which is actually headquartered in Nyeri, and they are working on around 20 counties. But the data that we used was from 15 counties. Now you can see there we have also 1,910 producers. We have 94 traders, 22 aggregators, 4 processors, and 61 input supply. So there is also room to maybe check on the price differential and also maybe capture that price differential in the estimation that we did. So the analytical framework, we used a principal component analysis to cluster this and see where is the performance challenges. We also used double ADO model because we wanted to see how these farmers are accessing markets or are selling through various market outlets. And finally, I think I will change that. Initially, I was thinking that we could use multivariate profit model, thinking that these farmers or these producers are actually accessing more than 2 markets. But it emerged that they are only using 2 market outlets, and that is why we are talking about upgrading this particular value chain because of supply dynamics. So with this principal component analysis, we use indicators such as productivity, competitiveness, governance and institutional performance, employment outcomes, and part of spatial and structural typologies. Double ADO, as you can see, this is what we used. And what I have highlighted there is the same variable that we also use in multinomial logit. And that is the second part of that particular double ADO. This is the multinomial logit that we use. And the equations that we run is that they use the same set of independent variables which I had actually shown you. I'm sorry for these particular slides, but what I can say is that these are the dependent variables. We have the multinomial logit, we have the double ADO, the 2, and also the independent variables are the same even for multinomial logit. So in terms of results, we have several descriptive analysis because several information came out, and from the data that we got, we have a lot of information, especially, I will share the document.
You have 4 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So what we are saying is that aquaculture producers are predominantly middle-aged men with secondary or tertiary education, and that informs us about the challenges of inclusivity. So this is the production, especially among those particular counties that have embarked on business management units where they use cages as part of their production systems. So for multi-dimensional, you can see component 1, all these components, we only highlighted 4 components, and the performance is actually systemic, and it requires coordinated intervention, especially across the production systems, all the way to market systems, and also the support system in terms of institutions. Component number 2, the main factors are production cycles, which sometimes you find that it is once in a year. There is also a market type, which affects component 2, as well as market information access. So we realize that there is asymmetric access to information among other information that is there. Component number 3 is talking about post-harvest technology, as well as the quality strategies, because you all know that fish is a perishable product, which requires a very well coordinated system, especially when we want to reduce the post-harvest losses. So the last, in multinomial audit, they highlighted in red are the main factors that needs to be considered. One is the education, the other one is production volumes. We have cold storage, among others that is highlighted there. Double add-on, we have the first part, which is the decision making, and the results indicate that only 3 key variables are important in terms of participation. But for now, the extent of participation in terms of the quantity sold, we have several factors that determines the same. So in terms of employment, I'm sorry for policy, the title, but what we are saying is that if you increase a unit of this particular aquaculture in terms of bond management and even efficient production, there is a possibility of actually influencing the labor element in terms of employment. And what we are saying is that there is a tendency of actually increasing the number of people that are working for you by 5 human beings, or by 5 laborers. So in conclusion, what we say is that aquaculture in itself has a very great potential, especially within the country, because of issues that have been highlighted there. We have food security, employment, income growth. But now, performance or productivity of these particular bonds are actually constrained by weak market integration, limited cold chain infrastructure, and low institutional coordination. So these are the main recommendations that came out from our results. And the first one is there is need for strengthening the market orientation or market alignment for this particular product. We also need cold chain infrastructure across the counties that are producing this particular, that are working on fish. And we need to promote producer organization. We need to develop a diversified kind of and structured market channels. We also need to look into post-harvest issues, because that is where we lose up to around 40% of our product. Otherwise, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Karibu sana. I know next time we shall be sending out karaoke for disrupting the class. But all the same, you have seen issues of fish. I think you have so many questions, isn't it? Yeah, so there is a lot that will be coming up. In the interest of time, just keep your suggestions, concerns, and what have you. But let us have Moses coming up. But then we shall also include Diana. Diana also be ready. Once Moses is through, we shall have Diana. Then we have a discussion a bit. Moses, karibu.
Good afternoon. Our paper
Don't behave like you are not a teacher. I know we have been with Moses in many forums. He's a guru. He's a guru who should be roving the floor. Karibu.
Thank you very much. I am Moses. Our paper is on integrating pastoralists into the beef economy through an inclusive value chain approach. And this paper, we did it with Karen and Tupuru, together with Charles Kibiwot. Our paper, I'll go direct to introduction. Our paper is on a beef economy, whereby we would like to have an inclusive and bottom-up strategy that can be applied to strengthen the livestock value chain to enhance the participation of income. As you all know, Alsace counties contribute for 70% of Kenya livestock, and our paper, mostly we carried out research in 3 counties, which is Marsabit, Turkana, and Samburu. Pastoralists, as you all know, the one that are captured is between 28 and 32%, meaning there's a big chain that is left out within the value chain, meaning most of the pastoralists in our country, they are not involved within the value chain. Therefore, one of the things that are affecting the pastoralists is structure barrier. That include weak market linkages, poor infrastructure, limited finance access, and fragmented policy implementation. And in this case, our study examined inclusive strategies. Let me go to objectives of our study. Our objective number 1 is to examine how inclusive the bottom-up strategy can strengthen livestock beef value chain. And in this case, is to enhance income and resilience of pastoralists and indigenous communities in Alsace counties, which in this case, our study area of research is Marsabit, Turkana, and Samburu. One of our specific objectives is to access the socio-economic institution and market barrier that limit one of our objective number 2 is to evaluate the effect of current market system and support mechanism, that is income market access and value capture. When you go to our literature review, what exists in terms of the information that is there, we have the Porter 1985 that conceptualized value chain and interconnected activities. We have number 2, the one Cattle et al. Pastoralism, which state that the pastoralism and livestock market system, and the focus area is on role of pastoralists in dry rut economies, where the gap is on limited focus, value capture across the beef chain. The other one is also D-HAL, identify powers imbalances and weak tenor security that reduces formal market participation, requiring deliberate policy intervention. One of the countries that act as case study, whereby the value chain has been involved. We have one, Ethiopia, as you can see. They have key intervention, pastoralist cooperatives. They have good cooperative there, aggregation centers, mobile veterinaries, and key lesson that we can learn in Kenya is to strengthen producer cooperative and formalize livestock trade system. We have Botswana, and we have Namibia and Mongolia. Therefore, these are the case studies that we can use as a country to be able to apply this value chain system in our country. Our methodology, we have we use the mixed method research design, whereby we combined qualitative and quantitative, and in this case, we had a key informative interview and focus group discussion. And our area of study was Marsabit, Turkana, and Samburu, which in this case, Marsabit, we carried out that research on Koror. In Turkana, it was Rokchogio and Kakuma, and Samburu. We had a cross-section case study. In this case, we identified the 3 counties, in which we selected the 3 counties through purposive. In this case, we look at the counties that host large pastoralist population, the counties that contribute significant to livestock, and also the experience persistent marginalization, which are the 3 counties which have been marginalized for a long time, and they do pastoralist. We used multi-stage sampling yield, that is 300 to 400 pastoralist household, and whereby we had mapping and identifying actors, linkages, government structures, and price spread. And our analysis, we use the SPS method, SPS, to do our analysis. Result and discussion, we noted that the pastoralists control 56% of our national health, and they produce 80% of Kenya beef, but captures only 28 to 32%, meaning we have a gap, big gap in our country in terms of value chain, meaning most of our pastoralists, they are not involved within the process from where they are producing their cattle, processing them, having the cold chain they can store, even exporting the product, in this case meat, which it can be added value so that farmers can have a higher income. Cattle sold at farm gate for Kenya shillings 20,000 generate a retail value of 65,000 to 75,000. Meaning, if this can be encouraged to our farmers, farmers can have an added advantage in this case, whereby their product are added value. In this case, beef, they can be able to export it at a higher value. Barriers of 68% of trading routes, inaccessible during rains, only 4 function abattoirs, 12% credit access, and 5.5% insurance penetration, meaning inaccessible becomes a challenge within the pastoralist area due to poor infrastructure, and also insurance is not yet adapted or is not yet introduced to pastoralists. On cooperative groups, marketing yields 41% higher income, direct process linkage achieves 60% income premium, meaning pastoralists need to be in cooperatives. You can see the percentage, 41%, meaning it's higher. If we can keep encouraging them, it can be a good thing to them. We have a case study of Romad Cooperative with 1,600 members, in which, in this case, 60% are female, and it has delivered 18 to 22% premium, and it has also offered employment to the people within the 3 counties. The climate shocks 2020 and 2023 it showed that 80% of livestock mortality and insecurity cattle rates losses. As you all know, those are the things that are affecting our pastoralists in terms of security. Most of them, they find that their cattle are taken away, they are stolen. One of the policy we have for the national and county. For the national, we have to develop a comprehensive, inclusive livestock value chain policy framework, recognizing pastoral mobility and indigenous knowledge system. Our farmers need to have the knowledge of the market information. Number 2, scale infrastructure investment in ASAS counties. In this case, the pastors need market. They need to know the market in terms of the price. They need to have also cold chain facilities, infrastructure to be able to store their product, so that you all know meat goes bad very easily, so that they can be able to add value to their cattle to reduce the loss. Also to establish dedicated livestock financing mechanism, including production credit, cooperative capital, and index-based livestock insurance. As you all know, most of our pastoralists, they don't access the credit because we don't have loans tailed to them because of insecurity and also guarantee issues. On the county government, we have to increase livestock sector budget. That's one of the things, counties to allocate a minimum of 15% to do, to increase livestock sector budget allocation to minimum 15% of development spending. Also, to establish county-owned aggregation and processing center through public-private partnership and ensuring local ownership. Number 3, strengthening producer cooperative through governance training, financial management, capacity building, and annual matching grant. The other one is development partner and communities. And also to have a piloting innovative inclusive model, digital livestock auction, in this case, blockchain traceability, real-time market information platform, and the last one is to support climate resilience production, in this case, drought tolerant breeds, feed reserves, and water infrastructures. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's a very informative paper. Makofi tena. But I'll be so happy one day to see a pastoral making a paper of agriculturalists. Thank you. Now, now let us finish up that with Diana making her presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Diana Nkere, and our paper is on apiculture. So before the project, I would like to mention that yesterday was World Bee Day. I hope you are all aware. You are not aware that it was World Bee Day? So World Bee Day is celebrated annually to appreciate the contribution of bees to the ecosystem, the environmental ecosystem, because they contribute to biodiversity, income generation, and environmental sustainability. So we are presenting this, co-authoring this paper with Beryl Onzere.
Who has her paper? Who is supporting you? This is keep right. Should just be on a touch and it's there.
Okay,
good,
yeah.
it has come.
Yeah, so our paper is on strengthening Kenya's apiculture and honey value chain to boost productivity, export competitiveness, and employment by Diana Nkere and Beryl Onzere. So that is our outline. So apiculture plays a critical role in improving livelihoods in Kenya, with over 500,000 livelihoods directly linked to beekeeping. So that is because apiculture contributes to income generation, as I had mentioned, environmental sustainability, and also biodiversity. Then Kenya's honey production is approximately between 17,000 to 25,000 metric tons. This is between 45 to 66% only. So, and the demand, the total demand for honey in Kenya is 35,000 metric tons. So we can see that there is a short of about 13,000 to 27,000. Then the policy question herein will be, how can Kenya...
The kingdom person, you are making noise.
Okay. So how can Kenya strengthen the apiculture and honey value chain to improve value addition, market competitiveness, and inclusive livelihoods? Then the policy problem, as we are going to see, is weak integration within the value chain. So despite Kenya's strong ecological potential and growing domestic demand, The apiculture and honey value chain underperforms due to weak value chain integration, resulting in a persistent gap between production potential and actual performance. And why is there a production gap? It's because most farmers do not process honey, so they sell honey in its raw form. Then the policy context here, globally, honey market has been expanding due to rising demand for natural and organic products. Then in Africa, Africa contributes about 10% of the global production, but Kenya's market share remains low due to productivity and processing gaps. It's because Kenya has not adapted the new, or rather the modern beekeeping technology. And Kenya apiculture sector can become a major player with enhanced productivity. And how do you enhance productivity? By adapting technology. Then the guiding principle for this paper were the Kenya Vision 2030, Agricultural Sector Transformation and Growth Strategy, the National Beekeeping Development Policy. We appreciate that there is a specific framework that is focusing on apiculture, and that is the National Beekeeping Development Policy. Then the main policy issue will be the low productivity. So most of the farmers in Kenya are smallholder farmers who use traditional log hives to keep bees, or rather to rear bees. So you find that there is low productivity. The policy focus will then be, it's important to promote technology adaptation through subsidies, strengthening extension services at the county level, and improve access to affordable finance through cooperatives and microfinance, and also especially women and youth microfinance. Then another issue which is key, and it's derived from the policy problem, is weak value addition. So the value chain is dominated by raw honey sales and minimal processing. So it's important to strengthen aggregation systems across all the nodes within the value chain. So, and it's also important to invest in processing and to create structured markets. Then another issue will be quality assurance and export competitiveness. So since we do not meet the local demand, of course we are not able to produce surplus for export. And the minimal that we produce or we are able to export is not up to standard. We'll see as we proceed that countries such as Tanzania are able to produce quality honey that surpasses the standard of Kenya. Then this policy paper focuses on two objectives. One was to map the structure and governance of apiculture and honey value chain in Kenya, with a focus on the level of integration across all the nodes from input to marketing. Then another one key objective was to assess the economic potential of the value chain in terms of productivity, competitiveness, and employment outcomes as manifestation of the value chain integration. So we see that if integration is enhanced, there will be economic potential in apiculture in Kenya. Then under the literature review, one of the literature reviewed was the value chain theory, and its focus on apiculture is that it helps in understanding the actor roles, all the actors across the value chain, what role they play. It also helps to capture the value of honey at each stage across the node, and the role of competition across the different stages of the value chain. Then another one will be the Porter's theory of competitive advantage, which emphasizes on productivity, innovation, differentiation as drivers of competitiveness in honey markets. Then under the empirical literature, so Kenya honey production and market participation. So in Kenya, the honey yield per hive is between 10 to 20 kgs, but if technology improves, will be a significant increase to 30 or 50, but now that is below the global standard. We can see that the standard produced per hive is 30 to 50. This is from countries such as China. Then another one will be barriers to value addition. So evidence shows that there is less than 20% of honey in Kenya that is processed because most farmers sell it raw. Then according to World Bank and FAO, Kenya's honey exports remain below 100 metric tons annually. From that literature review, we identified a number of gaps, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to go into all of them. So I'll just mention one, which was key, is that the Mool et al. 2014, the key finding was that traditional hives yield are far less than the modern hives. Then the identified gaps was limited geographic scope with no value chain analysis. Then for the methodology, so after reviewing all those literature under the theoretical literature, the theoretical framework that we used was the value chain theory. It's relevant in the apiculture sector because it's used to analyze the fragmented value chain in Kenya by identifying bottlenecks in production, aggregation, and market access. Then under the analytical framework, we used the global value chain analysis to analyze as the methodology. So the approach is used to examine the structure of the governance, performance, and economic potential of the apiculture. So across both objectives, objective for mapping and economic potential. Then the study used a mixed method research design where both quantitative and qualitative approaches were used and to analyze the apiculture and honey value chain in Kenya. So we collected, under data sources, we collected primary data using questionnaires, focus group discussion, and KIIs. And this data was collected in 2 counties which were used as case counties. So Kirinyaga was selected as a case county because of its agricultural potential. It has a potential to also adapt modern technologies in apiculture farming. Then Machakos was selected because of his asal characteristics. Then those were the secondary data sources where we obtain our data. Then a sample size of 100 to 120 respondents were selected from the 2 counties that we visited in December. It's good to also appreciate that data was collected in December of 2025. Then under the measurement of outcome variables, so we measured productivity, competitiveness, and job creation using different, for example, for productivity, we used honey yield per hive. So those variables were used. Then, so under results and discussion for
Young Professionals Program, and the researchers were presenting on value chains. So the young people there, they're from Chuka University, the Kipra mentorship program that we mentor them. So when we have these sessions, we bring them here so that they are able to see how you link from education all the way to work. This team here, these are senior researchers in Kipra. Unfortunately, you not introduce yourselves. So, Madam PS, thank you for hosting, or rather, being our guest of honor, and just give them a word, and then we leave.
Good afternoon. So mine is to just appreciate the management of KIPRA, particularly the CEO, for organizing this particular young professionals program, because this is what prepares you to be serious researchers. And when you are exposed to this at the earliest part of your career, then you become better, people who can shape the economy of this country, people who can shape the future of Kenya. You have seen my friend here, I don't know your name, the one in green. He presented on the care economy, and I will not forget. I just didn't get your name, but I was able to see the magnitude of this care economy, how it can contribute to the GDP of Kenya. So you can imagine any kind of research you're doing right now, how it is going to shape the future of Kenya. So you people are very, very important in our country. So I just want to encourage you that to continue doing the good work, for the CEO here to, as she gives you opportunity, don't take this opportunity for granted. Some people, they think maybe I want to start as an officer somewhere, but when you start through this young professional program, I know of people who have gone through this program. Some of them were working in other corporates, and they joined through this program. They are really doing well. So this is an opportunity for mentorship. I've seen the senior economists who are here. I'm sure majority of you are economists, yes? So they are mentoring you. And I know people who have gone to work with even international organizations like World Bank from this young professionals program. And I'm glad today I have also met the students who are also being mentored. So KIPRA is doing a lot, and I have also taken it as a challenge to ensure I build the social workers on Children Matters the way she is doing. Thank you very much. We will have more time next time. As for today, I need to leave and get back to Nairobi. I wish you all the best, and see you next time. Asante.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Before we clap, Madam PS and Madam Edie, we are very, very glad as a team that you have visited us. This is actually the technical team. And maybe as you go away after learning from him, also just want to tell you that yesterday was the World Bee Day. And being a World Bee Day, we have learned through the papers that we are presenting that Kenya has a deficit of 13,000 metric tons that we require of honey in the country. So we need to encourage, and that's why we are actually telling people that we need more beehives to have that satisfy the interest of Kenyans. So we have a lot that you are doing here, and as you come, you encourage us so much. Thank you very much, Edie, to have brought her here so that we get all this much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you can continue as you also plan to finish.
Okay. Okay. So, under the results and discussion, we mapped the apiculture and honey value chain from input to the consumption, to the consumption. Then across all the nodes, we also found the relevant activities played by the actors in all those nodes. So like in production, where we have raw honey, then we also get byproducts from the bees like propolis, wax, pollen, and venom. Then the main activities here are hive installation, colony establishment, hive management, then also pest management. And the main actors here are producers, beekeepers, and cooperatives. Then we also appreciate that since apiculture is sold in Kenya, honey is sold raw, beekeepers are cut across the entire value chain. So you'll find that because they produce and also sell and also consume, so they cut across all the nodes. Then under this is just a snapshot of the map where we were able to analyze the activities just as I had mentioned, actors and the outputs. Then for the Kenya's concentration and value contribution in the apiculture value chain, some of the key observations were production dominance. So apiculture sector is predominantly smallholder because they are small farmers, and it's mostly not practiced for commercial purposes. Then there is weak integration, limited value addition, and market challenges. Then under objective 2, under honey productivity by hive technology, we see that one beehive produces an average of 10 to 20 kgs. That is a traditional hive. Then the modern hive, which is the Kenya top bar or the Langstroth hive, produces an average of 20 to 40. So if that is adopted, there will be an increase in productivity. Then those were the statistics for Kirinyaga and Machakos County. From the age, we were able to derive that most of the farmers are an average of 48 years old. So we see that the youth are still left behind in apiculture farming, yet it has potential of growth. So we encourage all the youth most youths to practice apiculture. Then we can see that there are a number of hives. So the number of hives, the minimum is 2 and the maximum in the farm was 115. So we see that apiculture is practiced in small scale. Then, so we were also able to do the value capture across the apiculture and value chain, and honey value chain. So we were able to get the main value added at each node. So for input, the main value added was provision of hives, tools, protective gear, and technical input. So we were able also to see all that across all the other nodes. Then in Africa, we did a comparison of exports between Kenya, Ethiopia, and Tanzania, and we see that Kenya is still behind. It has potential to grow, but the export is low because we do not meet the local demand. But Ethiopia is really producing a lot, greater than 5,000 metric tons. So Ethiopia produces more than Kenya. Then, so we were also able to do a comparison. You remember we did data collection in Machakos and Kirinyaga, but we did a comparison with other counties in Kenya that have potential for apiculture. That is Baringo and Kitui. So we did a comparison and found some of the key observations. Like for Baringo, it has a stronger identity as a honey producing county. Then the structures are better organized, producer networks, compared to Kirinyaga and Machakos. Yeah. Then in the conclusion, we conclude that indeed, apiculture, despite the favorable conditions, apiculture has untapped potential. There is also growth potential, and there exist policy gaps. And under the policy recommendation, I'll just pick the 3. which are the main. So one is to expand subsidized access to modern hives and strengthen technical training on hive management and post-harvest handling. And this can be done in the short term. Then another one will be to strengthen cooperatives, establish aggregation centers, and promote contract-based management linkages. And this is also short term. And the last one will be to invest in certified processing facilities, packaging, branding, and quality assurance systems through public-private partnerships. Yeah, so I'll end there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mpemba Coffee. That's very good research. I never knew that bees also have a day. So this is learning, and we are also learning that we are honey deficient country. So we need more. We have also learned that we require fish and what have you. So now we want to just take some 10 minutes to ventilate a bit on what we have, but I want to urge that you can write where the concerns are and also forward, so that it is even, it can also assist the researchers who have been going through that work. But let me take this time to allow researchers to, you will mention the paper that you are talking about, and then the areas that you want us to maybe get more knowledge. So who is going first? Oh yeah, yes.
Yes. Okay, before I go in, Mwatu was telling me that everyone and everything has a day, including toilet, except for men. There is no men's day. We don't know the problem. It's not, we don't celebrate it as it is celebrated. Anyway, my comment was Dr. Ngeno's paper on fisheries. Just a comment, because I've seen beyond the, I think the numbers you've mentioned, 16,000 metric tons in terms of production at that 5 billion value. I think there is more potential to that, because I saw you a comment on some write-up on like, what's the thing? Like the number of, the fish stock, like it's declining. Unless that is a case of Kisumu, because recently, although it's not backed by research, I had the president saying that the fish in Lake Turkana is dying out of old age. So that means it's not affected so much, and which is actually the truth, because if you look at a lot, the investment in the fish industry in Turkana is so little that only consumption, so fishermen just go to the lake to get fish ya kupika kwa nyumba. But the other fish that is transported outside is so kidogo. So kumaanisha iko samaki mingi is only that we've not put so much effort into it. So there's so much that can even go beyond the 16,000 metric tons. Yes.
Thank you very much. And I want to also urge members to be patient a bit. This is quite critical. So who is next? Oh, okay. Then him after that, yes. Ngeno, you are seated as if you are watching film.
Thank you. My name is Timothy. On Dr. Ngeno's presentation, there's a model that you used that was double waddle crag model. So when it comes to that model, you are looking at entry, that is participation, because it is a two-stage model. There is participation and then there is intensity. That is the level of participation. So I was wondering, now that participation was binary, it was a yes or no. You either participated or not participated. And then when you go to intensity, it is probably the number of markets or something. It has to be a proportional something. So I was wondering, while you were collecting the data and curating the data, in such a case, mostly as an economist, you will induce what we call a biasness. And though I was thinking if the Ekman two-stage model would work better Now that you must induce some sort of a bias, to account for that bias, now you use the Ekman two-stage. Thank you.
Right. So he'll do it, then we'll come to you.
Yes, thank you so much. So I have some two observations, and then I think I want to start with the Ngino one, and then I think I will go to the other papers that I've just picked when I was there. So on the Ngino one, I think we have discussed with him, if you check the multinomial logic that he puts, it is not good for that paper. So, and then that's why the result, you could see the result, the one of the column is 0, 0. So that model is not good for that paper. Then the second thing on the double-huddle model, for the double-huddle model is the first step, and then the second step is a TOBIT. When you use the second step and then you change it from TOBIT to the other one, GLS, there must be a stereostatistics test. That test the result must be shown so that support what you are going to do on that step. It is not there, and then it makes a decision become very hard. Another third thing that I realized on that paper is on the eigenvalues when you're doing a peers propensity scores. So you need to have like all those variables that you did. Let's say there are 10 variables. Tell us all the scores, then the criteria you use to cut off. You don't only show me the 4 that you have cut off, then that is not good enough. But I know they might be in the whole paper, so I might be out of order. And then on the one on the Bs, I realized the question was very good on the mapping. You see, I see something close to a map, but it's not a map. Then I asked myself now on other parts that they were doing, you see the sample size is too small, and then they're trying to do some table statistics, then it's a bit worrying, it's a bit small, so I don't know how you did it, but somebody would want to interrogate how you did answer the second question on the competitiveness, employment, and then, because that one is not coming out nicely, and then gives me a very, very big problem. Thank you so much.
Very good, and I would really urge that you sit with him now to improve, since you are also friends. Okay, so it was now him, yeah. Pass it on, please.
Okay, thank you. My name is Evans Mogeni. Mine is not commenting on methodological, but generally on the area which I'm so much interested in, particularly the B value chain. I realized she had said she's doing any value chain. It should be the B value chain. And basically, I wanted to inform the researchers on the B value chain. We realize honey is the lowest quality. When we do the pricing, honey is of the lowest quality of the B product or the value that we have. Recently, we launched what we call the Venom Center, the only one in Africa at areas of Utawara. And when you talk of the B value chain, you could be talking about all these other prepories, the venom, the wax. You talk about, how do you call it, the pollen grains. That is now when you talk in totality of the value chain about the bee. Otherwise, when we talk only about honey, then you have, unless you want to do another research on the entire value chain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we shall all have now those two, then we close. Let us start with her, then we come to you to conclude. Apeane wisdom, sindio? Okay, continue. Musaidie kufinya.
Santi. Mine is to appreciate the presenters, and I have some two observations from the presentation on the beef value chain. And these observations are in relation to the two objectives. The one that you're looking at the barriers, and you have categorized them as socioeconomic, institutional, and market. So when you're presenting the results section, I was struggling a bit, trying to see where the barriers that you're showing, where they lie, whether they are socioeconomic, institutional, or market. So maybe you can see how to map that such that maybe you can have a table where you have the specific barriers put under the specific category so that it comes out clearly. Then the second objective, which talks about the effect of the market systems, support mechanisms, and you have some of the variables that are influencing that. What came to my mind when I saw the effect of these on these is some kind of a cause effect analysis, which I didn't see in the paper. And at some point on the analysis, you talked about income comparison as one of the methods that you used. So I was expecting to see maybe some two groups or one group whereby you have some incomes that you're trying to see which of the groups had a higher income than the other. So that didn't come out clearly what income comparison meant. Was it a mean comparison kind of a method like the t-test or ANOVA, or what did you mean by that? Maybe you could clarify. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daktari. Now give him the okay. Then after which we shall have a few minutes to listen to Sharon.
So it is on. Huh? Yeah. Thanks, colleagues and presenters. I think I almost want to make very brief comments on the presentation of the first presenter on global value chains. I was just wondering that in your main write-up, do you link the research to the concept of carbon markets? Because I was thinking that carbon markets could be linked in terms of, let's say, background information, or possibly in terms of objectives. For objectives, I was thinking that if, for example, we can acquire the green technologies, then it means that we can maybe earn some, we can have some income earnings by selling to some countries that are still backward, so that they pay us and then they are allowed to produce. Yeah, that is one thing I was thinking could be done. Regarding the bee, you know, I'm not so very sure between bee and livestock what I'm going to talk about. I'm sort of mixed up. But I think for the bee, I can say that our lady colleague, she mentioned about qualitative and quantitative research. I think it would be helpful to be specific that, I mean, whether qualitative or quantitative, it was cross-sectional. And then for qualitative, you mentioned the actual strategy that you used for sampling. If it was purposive, then you describe exactly. I felt that that should have come out even in a summary. And then for the quantitative also, you be specific, the methodology that you actually used, or the analytical technique that you used. For livestock, I don't know whether it's livestock or still bees, but I feel like there are two objectives, either for livestock or for bees, but I think it is livestock. The second objective is not specific. You know, a research objective has to be very specific. It is like there are several things that you want to determine or analyze. So I feel like maybe if there are more issues, then you could make them into the third or fourth objectives. Yeah. And then for the bee, I would like to suggest that there is, what do we call them? Those articles that we write in the policy monitor. Yeah, I think a policy monitor article. There was a policy monitor article that I wrote on the bees. And maybe for your background information, you can check if there could be any useful information there, like issues. The issues of bees, for example, being killed by the spraying of insecticides in crops and those kind of things is a very big problem for bees. Those kind of issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that is, let us give them a round of clap. Very good. Members, we are residents, and I want to urge that we just give ourselves around 30 minutes to see the papers of these 2 or 3 other members have, then we call it a day. But as we think of bringing them on board, the members who are, the researchers who have presented, you need now to send to me. I remember that English, send to me. I don't know who is the me. In the English, send to me. Send to Timothy. Send to Timothy your abstracts with the title, keywords, the authors, and the email. And then the abstract body of your paper to...
I'm saying for all those who have presented, for purposes of not following up after we are done with the presentations, kindly send me the abstracts of your papers with your email, the abstract body, everything, and the keywords, kindly. My email is tmeti. I'm from Kipra, so you will be able to see my email. So for those who are not from Kipra, tmeti@kipra.or.ke. tmeti@kipra.or.ke. Thank you.
Yeah, we shall still give you that email should you want it, but it's quite important because these papers will become also your book chapters. So it's important that we have them. So now allow me kindly to bring on board Sharon. Sharon, you will introduce yourself, and we're giving you only 15 minutes to take us through your paper. Then once Sharon is through, we shall have Priscilla and Masinde. They do their paper, and then finally it will be Rose. Then we discuss. Karibu.
Good afternoon, or evening. Okay, I'm Sharon Rotino. I work at Parliament and Parliamentary Research Services. And this is my first time to submit a paper to Kipra. And yeah, I'm happy to have made it this far. And I'm hoping to learn more from this team. So thank you very much. The paper is titled Leveraging Agricultural Value Chains to Address Women Unemployment in Sub-Saharan Africa under the AFCTA framework. So that's the outline. The introduction, I'll just, we look at the vision of the AFCTA. It tends to boost intra-African trade and industrialization by reducing trade barriers and strengthening regional value chains. The agricultural pillar aims to drive job creation through agro-processing and expanded regional markets. And there's also, because I've taken a gender perspective, so what is the gender imperative in all this? We note that women do provide over half of the agricultural labor in most sub-Saharan countries, but often marginalized and remain in the very low value nodes. So they are left at the production, providing labor at the farms, but when it comes to production, processing, and higher value logistics, they are not there. So this paper aims to address trade reforms
examines how trade reforms, value chain upgrading, and inclusion policies and overcome barriers, limiting women's access to stable, higher value employment. The study aims to inform the policy dialogue on regional integration to create jobs for women via the value chain development. So the problem, we look, it's like two-pronged. We look at there's employment gap where we find that women are lowly represented at about 31%, roughly 32% in workforce in sub-Saharan Africa. They are also trapped in the very informal sectors. So at around 89% of women are trapped in the low informal sector compared to about 83% men, which leads to their leading to insecure, low-paying jobs. There's also the segmentation. Women are underrepresented in higher value roles. They are at around 33%, and jobs in food processing and around 33% in textile. There's also the other problem that I noted is in terms of trade and structural barriers. Women they are more susceptible to negative experiences, negative border experiences such as harassment, extortion and such. And then logistics friction, such as delays. We know that women deal with mostly the kind of goods they deal with are fresh and perishable goods like fruits, vegetables and stuff. So they are more susceptible to logistics frictions. For instance, just a slight delay at the border, then chances of them ending up in losses are very high. There's also they're also constrained in terms of resources to just invest in value chain. So we note that despite this, the aspirations of FCTA for inclusivity, the employment mechanisms most effective in alleviating women's unemployment within agri-food chains are inequitably distributed and exhibit low levels of implementation. So the main objective of this paper is to examine how agricultural value chains influence women's unemployment in sub-Saharan Africa under the FCTA framework, and the specific objectives are to examine how the FCTA implementation intensity. By intensity, we refer to liberalization, trade facilitation, elimination of trade barriers and such, how they will affect women unemployment, assess how agricultural value chain upgrading and agro-processing development influences women's unemployment, women's employment opportunities, analyze how women's participation and ownership within agricultural value chains shape labor market outcome, examine how market access conditions and intra-African trade costs affect women's unemployment and participation in regional agricultural value chains, and assess the moderating role of women's education and skills development and its impact on employment outcomes. So in terms of the literature review, the study is based on two theories majorly, the new trade theory and the global value chain theory. It has so many studies so many papers presented here have alluded to this. Then there's some literature review there, the empirical. But what are the main outcomes of the literature review that go ahead to influence my study is that the literature provides the present study with 5 kinds of information, largely, that corresponding to the study objectives. One is the significance of trade facilitation, tariff liberalization, and NTB reducing effect on women's labor market opportunities. It illustrates the agro-processing and value chain upgrading, how it affects the quality and stability of jobs. It also demonstrates the disparity exists in women's participation and ownership of value chains, highlights trade costs and market access restrictions as major problems to inclusive employment, and highlights the importance of education and technical skills in unlocking jobs. So the methodology we've employed, the design, it's largely qualitative, desk-based approach, using systematic document analysis and secondary data synthesis. The scope, we use documents ranging from 2015 to 2025, the peer-reviewed materials. The data sources include journal articles, policy reports, FDB and World Bank reports. We also use the PRISMA-inspired selection process to identify screen documents to find the most relevant ones. And the key variable analyzed include tariff liberalization, NTB reduction, trade costs, market access, agro-processing, and women's participation. Analysis, just thematic content analysis and triangulation. to observe recurring patterns, constraints, and implications. So in terms of the results, growth potential, the first finding was in terms Africa AFCTA growth potential. It has the potential to grow intra-African trade by between 33 to 82%, depending on the country. It also can translate into up to 7% growth in real income and agri-food channel. It's also projected to increase by around 22%. In terms of border and trade facilitation, the findings are largely divided, segregated as per the broader objectives. And then the border and trade facilitation challenges, we notice the gender gap. We find that women are 37% more likely to face negative border experiences, compliance burden, especially for MSMEs. They have like up to 30 parties for clearances and about 200 data elements. Then customs reforms. We've noticed that we found out that one of the customs reforms implemented by, for instance, Kenya, led to reduction in the number of export days from 26 to 19 days. In terms of value chain upgrading gaps, we noticed that agro-processing in sub-Saharan Africa currently exports, we largely export raw goods, while the agro-processing capacity remains low at approximately 30%. That is very low, so that means we are largely exporting like raw goods. And then in terms of processing value addition, that's still very low, yet it has the potential to create more stable jobs in logistics, packaging, standards compliance, and among others, than maybe the sale of raw goods. And then in terms of effect of education, employment probability, with more years of schooling, then chances of getting better jobs in the market are higher. It also leads to growth, wage growth. I mean, the higher your levels of education, the higher your wages. So, and in terms of, because it was one of the moderating factors, we note that as education is a primary vehicle for women to transition from informal survival to better and more stable jobs. And finally, market access and trade cost, trade in perishable goods especially, because that is majorly what women do. Border delays significantly, we found that border delays significantly impact women-dominated trades, that is especially feed, because that's what they majorly do. We note that 10% increase in export time leads to about 3% drop in exports. And there is also the challenge of informal trade costs such as bribes and unofficial costs that women traders do not know. So what are the recommendations based on the study? And we need gender responsive border policies in terms of implementing digital custom systems, protection, establishing gender sensitive grievance management mechanisms, simplification of trade regimes for small scale traders, agro-processing infrastructure. We also need to invest in agro-processing. We examined about several value chains, dairy, coffee, textile, tea. So, and based on that, we recommend investing in cold chains, electricity, and industrial hubs, financing, so that women can also invest in value chain addition. Value addition, access to finance and assets so that they can take advantage and participate in the value chain trade. And then skills upgrading to align technical and vocational education and training with FCTA market needs, and invest in women education so that they can take advantage and also of the value chains that are created. And NTB's enforcement and sensitization, enhance the FCTA NTB portal with mobile-based reporting, transparency, and also launch awareness campaigns to educate women traders. And these are just a table of some of the results that I have already discussed. And yeah, that's FCTA is not automatic. Its success to a greater extent will depend on deliberate, inclusive implementation policies. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Sharon has come all the way from Parliament, And that's a very good paper. We shall discuss it after this. I want us to give a chance to Audrey to come and share with us the knowledge. Then Masinde will finish up. Sorry, Engineer Audrey.
Thank you very much. My name is Audrey Obwanda, and my co-author is Eunice, and we shall be looking at the citrus value chain for enhanced productivity, competitiveness, and employment creation. So citrus fruits are basically oranges and lemons and limes, mandarins and grapefruits. But in Kenya, oranges, lemons, and limes are the ones that are mostly grown because of the tropical climate that favors the fall. So Kenya's production is approximately up to 200,000 metric tons against a demand of 270,000. So this means Kenya is a net importer of this particular important fruit. So this report will assess the value chain in these countries to identify gaps, opportunities, strategic interventions for competitiveness and job creations. So what is the policy issue? There's weak input supply and support systems, inadequate value addition, aggregation, and marketing infrastructure, low productivity and competitiveness, and limited employment creation and inclusivity. So the objective is to determine the effectiveness of the input supply, basically the policy issues. That is what forms our objectives of the studies. I've analyzed several policy and legal frameworks that guided our studies. I will not mention them because of time, but more is in the paper. We have the institutional framework, then under literature review, there is theoretical and empirical review that guided each and every specific objective that I highlighted in the previous slides. So under methodology, we employed a mixed method research design, synthesizing both the secondary data from those bodies I've listed there, and we also analyzed qualitative and quantitative data collected through field interviews and questionnaires. And then the analytical framework was based on those FAOs, value chain modeling, SWOT analysis, data triangulations. And the limitations of this study is that we over-relied on secondary data because there was limited county level disaggregation data. So this slide, we highlighted how we collected each and every data based on our specific objectives, as you can see. And then, okay. The key findings slides is a bit tiny, but maybe I will just mention a few. On the headings, we have the policy issues, and then the finding, current interventions, and by who. And then the last column, I talk about the gaps. So under low yields, we found that there was widespread use of uncertified farm seedlings, aging orchards, low irrigation adoption, inconsistent fertilizer application, limited farmer access to extension services and technical knowledge. And then under the row of current interventions and by who, there was seedling certification and plant health control by Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service. There was also research and improved varieties by Kenya Agricultural, that is KALRO, and irrigation and productivity support, and a national agricultural value chain development project. So the gap was low adoption of certified seedlings, despite availability, insufficient extension coverage and farmer trainings, irrigation investment remain limited in scale, and weak linkage between research outputs and farmer update. So the same continues to high post-harvest losses, whereby we found the findings as true. There's high post-harvest losses. Current interventions, we found there were some cold storage and aggregation investments and a national agricultural value chain development project. And then the gap still remains inadequate cold chain infrastructure, limited farmer training on post-harvest handling losses, and weak enforcement of handling standards. And then number 3, under limited processing capacity, the findings were majority of citrus was sold in raw form with minimal value addition. There was also existing processing facilities which operated below capacity due to inconsistent supply, and also farmers who are not organized to supply processors consistently. The current interventions were agro-processing initiatives by the county government, value chain financing under national agricultural value chain, and investment promotion and market linkages by the private sector. But the gap was still underutilization of processing facilities due to supply inconsistencies, weak farmer processor linkages, and limited private sector investment. And the last one is weak compliance with quality standards, whereby there was minimal grading and sorting at farm level, inconsistent packaging and handling practices. The current interventions were standards development and enforcement by KEBS and AFA, market regulation by AFA. But the gap was weak enforcement of standards, especially in informal markets, limited farmer awareness and training on standards, and high compliance costs for smallholders, plus lack of incentives. So under the citrus value chain flow diagram, I've basically summarized what needs to be done under the various nodes of input, production and orchard management that entails land preparation. And then there is post-harvest handling, losses, and what? Value addition and processing, and then institutional frameworks. Let's go. So the modeling bit, I will not dwell much into it, but I was just trying to test validity of our data, which proved to be okay. Next. And then under analysis, I had discussed more on each thematic area by mentioning the key evidence, that is the field and data from the secondary sources, given an analytical insight, and then the implication. So the DRL model estimation basically just shows what will happen if we employ the recommendations we've given as listed in that slide. And then we concluded by giving our policy recommendations based on priority levels, the intervention areas as per the specific objectives, what needs to be done with the lead actors and maybe the time duration. So under conclusion, citrus value chain operates below its productive and commercial potential, and the key constraints is low productivity, high post-harvest losses, weak market systems, and limited value addition. There is a deficit which leads to high reliance on imports, and the transformation requires integrated system-wide interventions across the value chain, together with data-driven policy implementation, and the strong potential outcomes we will likely to see if we do that is high yields improvements, loss reduction of up to 20%, and increased incomes in jobs and sector competitiveness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer. We are moving on well, so we move to the last paper, then we discuss, and I want to call upon Masinde to make the presentation. Where is he? Where is the Kofia? I almost forgot him.
Good afternoon, everyone. Allow me make this short presentation. My name is Masinde Richard, the upcoming king of the Wanga Kingdom. Currently, since I'm based in Mombasa, I've had to kuheshimu wazee wa Mijikenda ambao wanavaa kofia hiyo, na kwa sababu hiyo ndio sababu sijaivaa. Kwa sababu unapokuwa nao lazima wewe umevalia kanzu ama umefunga shuka lao. Na ndiposa kwa siku ya leo niko jinsi nilivyo. Lakini nikirejea Nairobi Jumatatu nitakuwa mimi ndio mfalme wa ile hekaya letu. I'm going to present to you a paper. Go to slide 1. I want to see strengthening the Kenya's dairy value chain for competitiveness and value addition. This is a paper we worked on with my colleague Priscilla Njue. And just to speak, this paper made me develop a lot of interest in the dairy farming, particularly after undertaking this research. Proceed. And I just want us to note a few things as we look into this paper. First, when we look at the dairy value chain in Kenya, it has a lot of economic and social significance, and I've just pointed out that it is contributing to 4% of the GDP and 14% of the agricultural GDP, and this is according to the Kenya Dairy Board 2026. And you see the production of milk from the dairy sector is now at 53.35 as per 2024, but from this production, we realize that only 11.6% is being processed. So the question is, where is this other 89.4% going to? So we also note that the highest per capita consumption is witnessed in the sub-Saharan Africa, with each person in this room consuming up to 110 liters of milk per year. As you are seated here, that is what we are able to observe. When we talk about livelihoods, we note that at least 1.8 million households depend on this chain, on this value chain, and it has created over 700,000 jobs. These are just background statistics about this particular value chain. But note, this value chain has also witnessed a number of persistent challenges. Just to mention, number one, there is low productivity being noted, weak market linkages, and most pronounced is the high informality in that sector, where we have about 70 to 80% of milk being in the informal market. We have limited value addition, and remember I've just pointed out that about 11.6 is only what is processed, then 89.4, we don't know where it is. Then we have post-harvest losses of 14%. After we do the production, we are losing 14%, and only 17% of the milk is formally marketed. So we have a big bunch of about 83. We don't know where it is going. Additionally, we also have structural weaknesses, which include smallholder dominance. The value chain is dominated by smallholders who have about 2 to 3 cows that produce 75 to 80% of the milk. We have the issue of fragmentation, quality risks, poor nutrition, costly feeds, limited veterinary and breeding services. We also have inadequate cooling and storage infrastructure, and weak regulatory enforcement. This is just generally about the background, which also formed a big bunch of the literature for this particular study. So what were the value chain gaps that we identified for this particular study? We identified that the milk output in the country has grown. However, formalization of this value chain and value addition have not kept pace, in as much as we have increase in output. Notably, price transmission within this value chain is asymmetric, whereby retail prices respond more to shocks than the farm gate prices. And this is in reference to a research by J.B. Watt, who I think is a lecturer at Jomo Kenyatta University. The processing capacity of this value chain is underused, with only 29% of milk being sold to processors. Very strange. Cooperatives in this value chain raise incomes by 10%. Only cooperatives. Where is the 90%? And their participation is very uneven. And this was even evident on the ground when we went to interact with them. We have gender and youth constraints within the value chain, where land, capital, and decision-making limit inclusive growth. So what is the core policy issue surrounding this particular sector? We are saying that not low milk output. We are not talking about production being low, but limited formalization, which now inhibits the value capture. We are not able to formalize the dairy sector well, and therefore we are not able to add more value to it. And in the long run, then we are not able to realize the best out of this value chain, and that's why that matters. So generally, you need to know that on the production overview of this dairy value chain, it has increased, I've already mentioned. Production has also gone up, and then this production we are talking about should be noted that it is from herd expansion. People increasing the number of animals they rear, which I call extensification, and not productivity per animal. That should be taken very seriously, and it was even pointed out while we were doing the research that people rear many animals to increase production and not increase the production quantity per animal. So that's one thing to be noted. So the spatial distribution of the value chain, note that top producing counties in the country, each producing about 300 million liters. Number 1 is Meru, doing very well. Uasin Gishu, Kiambu, Nyandarua, and Nakuru in that order. Those are counties that contribute significantly to this particular sector. But we have an even development. Some counties have better aggregation, that was noted, processing and market access. Total value of milk production increased by that. Key insight, value growth comes from volume and prices. Moving in, market participation, you note that the market output value for this particular value chain is about 341 billion in 2019 to about 504 billion in 2024. That's good money that, if injected into this economy, can contribute to lowering the fuel prices in the country. Now, fragmented production has also been recorded, and 4 structural problems have actually sprouted out. This paper, you'll find it in detail in the document that we'll finally share
These are just inside. And that's a graph showing the total milk production and the created value in Kenya from 2019 to 2024. That you see, we are having a lot of milk being produced, but the value is very low. For every liter of milk we produce, there's very low value addition. So we need to do much in terms of value creation. So that's how the structure literally looks like of the dairy value chain. The raw materials, where we have farmers acquire water, whatever. Then we have production, then milk collection, then we come to pasteurization and packaging, then market access, and consumer purchase. That's generally how that dairy value chain structure looks like. What are the key policies that surround this value chain? Most importantly, I just mentioned, we have the Dairy Industry Act, which was established under KARC 336. What does it say? It's written there. It's just a law regulating this dairy, and it was used to establish the KDB, the Kenya Dairy Board. But it has a gap, and I've pointed up. The gap with this policy is legislative obsolescence, weak enforcement, and intertrade barriers. That is the gap we are having with this kind of policy. Then we have the STTGS 2019-2019, which is a national strategy prioritizing dairy for food security. However, this particular policy or legislative framework equally has a gap, which we pointed out as weak input system, fragmented county cess or licensing. There's that fee that was in the county called cess. Then we have Constitution of Kenya, which assigns agriculture functions to counties. However, look at the gap: poor harmonization, weak county enforcement, and informal market vacuums. We have another one, Kenya National Dairy Master Plan 2010. These are strategic blueprint for growth and competitiveness. However, the gap here, this plan is outdated because it was put up in 2010. We are now in 2026, which are 16 years down the line, yet we are still relying on it. So we really need to look into such kind of issues. Then the National Livestock Policy 2020, which is comprehensive livestock development for health, breeding, and whatever. The gap here is weak linkage to dairy-specific regulations. So our research relied on a methodology which utilized integrated mixed methods value chain analysis. In this particular approach, we combined value chain mapping, constraint diagnostic, and performance assessment. The data collected was both primary and secondary. And the guiding theories for this particular paper were value chain analysis, VCA, structured conduct performance, SCP paradigm. The focus were the actors, the nodes, the flows, governance systems, influence on value creation, and upgrading. The core diagnostic objectives that we focused on were assessing whether production translates into formal market absorption and value addition. And number two, assess whether the chain structure enables efficient conversion of raw milk to higher value processed products. So the dairy value chain, the results, quickly. We noted that from the data we collected, which of course we really employed a lot of stratified and purposive sampling, and we had a number of key informants giving us very good information. The overall structure is that 70% of this dairy value chain is informal, 30% is formal. And you know, I said the problem is formalization. Formal sector is 30%, and the production is smallholder and large farms. We have bulking, cooperative transporters, cooling, 770 registered cooperatives, processing, and the key ones mentioned looked like Brookside, New KCC, and Fresher. Quality checks at processing is an issue. Processed products like UHT milk, yogurt, butter, ghee, cream, and cheese. This is what we expect under the formal sector. And this is what was working. But look at the informal sector that has 70%. Here, production is at the farm gate, and bulking is by brokers. There are a lot of brokers at the farm gate. So Direct distribution goes to hotels, kiosks, milk bars, and then end consumers. So the key issue here within the informal sector is the milk bypasses quality checks. So it raises the issue of food safety risks. Then the key takeaway is that this value chain is embracing a dualistic chain where formal adds value, but the informal dominates volume but lacks regulation, which is now making it not very efficient. So the economic value of the chain from the analysis, economic and employment contribution, the economic importance, particularly the two counties of focus were Nyandarua and Elgeyo Marakwet. We noted that dairy is the primary income source and food security pillar in those counties. It provides daily cash flow for them, unlike seasonal crops like potatoes. In Nyandarua, dairy was the backbone of livelihoods. In Elgeyo Marakwet, it was supplementary, but growing at a steady rate. So the national contribution remained at 4.2 of the GDP, 15 going to agricultural. Then employment multiplier is 1 million liters marketed, translates to direct and 100 direct and indirect jobs. This is just a summary of that paper anyway. Employment intensity across various nodes of that value chain. Production, we noted that from the analysis, it's very high at the production. And here, key observation is family labor, and it's purely women-led. Collection, intensity, medium, kidogo. Then we have a lot of informal traders and youth, hapo kwa collection. Processing, low to medium, very few processors. And it was capital intensive, and that's why even the processors were not very many. Retail, very high. And it was particularly informal milk vendors. So we have the policy insight here. Greatest job creation potential lies in on-farm productivity. This is where we need to focus so much within that particular value chain. So what were the top constraints from this particular paper or research? The ranked constraints based on our focus group discussion and the KIIs in Nyandarua and EMC County were, number one, we noted that high cost and poor quality of animal feeds affected production, weak and inconsistent markets, particularly processor dominance, policy and regulatory barriers. This cess was being spoken of many times. Then limited cold chain and processing capacity, inadequate extension, and AI services. So those are some of really top constraints that were noted to be affecting this industry. Performance gaps, productivity, market participation, and processing. Productivity gap, the observed yield was 12 liters per cow per day. Potential yield we were looking at was 25 liters per cow per day. That's what is actually expected. But you see, we are having 12. Then market participation. Aggregation stage, we had 70% formal, 30% informal. Processing stage, almost entirely formal. Distribution and retail, 90% informal, very dangerous. 10% formal. Dualistic structure, formal upstream, informal downstream. National production versus processing. Look at those statistics. Milk production, 48 million liters, 2020. 35 million liters, 2024. Then the share processed is 10.3% to 11.6%. That's a stagnant statistic. So it needs to be checked very closely. Processed product trends. Whole milk and cream exhibits a strong growth, particularly in urban areas. Cheese, okay, I'm winding up. Cheese, stable but low. Then butter and ghee declined, then modest recovery. Simeisha. Now, conclusion and policy recommendation. Main conclusion from this paper is that the Kenya dairy sector suffers from a disconnect between high production and low value addition. Core constraint is not the output, but limited value chain transformation, as we have seen. So finally, on the policy interventions, I've actually recommended that number one, the low processing of 10 to 12, the intervention can be fiscal incentives for processing, which the expected outcome would be job creation and value addition. Weak aggregation or market mill growth, we are recommending strengthen cooperatives, invest in collection and chilling. That outcome is reduced losses, increased formal supply. Low formal intake, expand cooperatives. We'll have improved quality control. Informal market, let's have gradual formalization. In this regard, quality assurance and investor confidence will be bolstered. Poor cold chain, let's have cold storage, refrigerated transport. This one reduced spoilage and ensure we have better milk quality. Finally, fragmented regulations, we can harmonize national county policies and streamline licensing. The expected outcome would be reduced transaction cost, ease of doing business in this particular regard. If you want to learn more from this paper, please, you can visit Joy.
Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to show you that even if you give people time, they can't finish. And Masinda has proved it to us. But I was also proving that for research papers will require more time for us to be able to articulate what we want to do well. That's a good paper. I'll come and see the type of animals you are keeping as per the paper. Now, members, I know you also want to mingle and also interact, but I want to request that we get some time at least to also to deliberate on these three papers by Sharon, by Audrey, and also by Masinde before we call it a day. Who is going first? And you'll tell us where you want us to improve before we move to another one. You are doing it first? Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Austin Chiboy. I work in Kipra. Now, my first comment is on the paper by Sharon Rotino. I just want to seek clarification from Sharon, saying that by 2025, there will be a rise of 4% in wages of women, especially in various sectors. But from the methodology or from the background, she has not indicated those sectors specifically where women are more concentrated in. So I wish you can focus on that. On the paper from Audrey, the analysis, SWOT analysis was mentioned, it was very clear. Also the FAO model was very clear, but when it comes to the findings, it was contradicting somehow how the analysis were related to the findings, how they were related with the methodology. So I wish if you can discuss further for us to understand exactly how each analysis was arrived at and what were the findings from every analysis. The last paper by Masinde, that's a very nice paper, though most of us are interested in dairy, but when it comes to the last part of the top constraints, which you have mentioned and they were very clearly and boldly highlighted, but there was no clear methodology on how those constraints were analyzed. So you just say top constraints and you list them. So the question is, how were they analyzed?
Very good. I think also it's good for the write-up to reach them, and also at a personal level, you can interact. Who is going next? Any comment? You want to say something? Okay. So it seems that, I know it's also tiredness, It's also tiredness, fatigue when you are doing it the last minute. But what I want to say is that these are very important papers that we need to assist so that they are polished well. so that when eventually we are writing something out of it, it will meet what we require from KIPRA. But on average, that information is quite key, quite important. But I also want to urge those who have presented actually to also forward to TMETI. It is TMETI@kipra.or.ke. So if you forward to that one, we shall eventually see how we can support and work closely with you. So don't go away without giving that. We shall still want to work closely with you so that we polish everything to be better. And I know we shall be proceeding tomorrow again at the right time. Yes, today we were interfered with at some time, but tomorrow it will be free flow very well. So come a bit early, by 8 be seated, so that by 8:30 we are starting and we learn together all these, we do everything together, and then by the right time we complete to see how we can also see the ocean and also see the last things. And if you have not known each other's name, you can use that time now to know each other well. So, anybody with any burning issue? Nothing. So, I know you want to say something.
Mine is to thank you for showing up and for the wonderful presentations. I know it's not easy putting up such papers. So definitely you've come a long way. We are almost there. You can incorporate the comments. And also, if tomorrow we can come 8:30 so that we finish before 1, so we can have an easy afternoon, we'll really appreciate. Thank you and have a lovely evening.
Thank you very much, Zainabu. Actually, they didn't show up. You know, when you show up, it's only making a picture, isn't it? I'll show up. But these ones have come ready with papers, research papers. And that's very rare to come up with these until people are appreciating that what we are doing is good, that we have bees and we require more honey, and we have never thought of such. It's a very good thing. So feel welcome. Now as you go, carry away your valuables, and then I come with them tomorrow again. Do you usually pray? Yes. Who is the pastor in the house? Anybody to give us a Maasai prayer? Oh.
Okay, let us believe and pray. Our Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this evening. Father, you have guided us through our various presentations, even through our comments. Up to this end, Father, we have been able to do it because of you. We want to thank you, even as we, Father, Lord, depart. Be with every one of us. Lead us into our various places. Father, Lord, we thank you. And in Jesus' name, I trust and pray. Amen.